I am the Namer, guardian of the names of power. Before your world even existed, my people were an ancient race. Now they are gone, and only I remain, keeper of my people's history. Across the endless tracts of space have I traveled, to return to the planet of my birth, Zoidstar. Though my people perished long ago, and their cities were buried by the shifting sands, the machines remain. It is these that have brought me here to perform the last act of the Zoidarian race, the giving of the names of power. When my race was young and had an interest in the affairs of the galaxy, they built the machines, mighty engines of destruction which gave the power of life and death over the other creatures in the galaxy. The Zoidarians turned their gaze outward and laid waste to 1,000 star systems with their machines, their Zoids. But ruling a galaxy was not enough for the Zoidarians. It was not the conquests, but the battles they enjoyed. And though all intelligent life trembled in the shadow of the Zoids, my people battled on, machine against machine, Zoidarian against Zoidarian, in the further pursuit of glory. Zoidarian lives were needlessly sacrificed to the god of battle, and the race dwindled in numbers until the elders outlawed the Zoid duels. But they couldn't outlaw the Zoidarian love of combat. The Zoidarian pilots of the giant war machines were replaced by androids, and thus the heroic combat could continue without threat to Zoidarian life. Too late came the order. Too late to save a once mighty race from extinction, and now only I remain. Only I and the Zoids. And though my people created the Zoids, I have no power to control them. For the war machines have become the living embodiment of the Zoidarian thirst for combat, with lives and wills of their own. They exist only to fight, to ensure that their heroic combat lasts for all eternity. Now I stand on the sand-blasted surface of a world I used to call home, high on a rock, scanning the horizon for some sign of movement, knowing that out there, behind the sand clouds, lurk the deadliest war machines in the universe. It begins!
The first aerial combat Zoid now springs. Mach 1 silver metal wings now take flight. Let Glidoler dark type Zoid helic light. Republic conquest is Glidoler's sword. Battle drums herald flight out to the war. Continental invasion and steel rage. Crimson duck type Zoid Martian warfare age. Red Glidoler, several wings in the skies. Red Glidoler, and the Dominion cries. Red Glidoler, steel wings and machine gun fire. Red Glidoler, send foes to funeral pyre. Dark Zoids come to invade Republic lands. Foreign Zoidian raiders, greedy hands. Hailing Zoids push back with Rhea's power. Send Dark Zoidian army back this hour. Countless team planets, these skies unmatched. Cybernetic carrier forces hatched. Decades of beast broken by Empire's rise. MS Empire conquest looms, evil eyes. Red Glidoler, several wings in the skies. Red Glidoler, and the Dominion cries. Red Glidoler, steel wings and machine gun fire. Red Glidoler, send foes to funeral pyre. Zoids to pieces with their end. Red Glidoler, sever wings in the skies. Red Glidoler, aircraft dominion cries. Red Glidoler, steel wings and machine gun fire. Red Glidoler, send foes to funeral pyre. Red Glidoler, sever wings in the skies. Red Glidoler, aircraft dominion cries. Red Glidoler, steel wings and machine gun fire. Red Glidoler, send foes to funeral pyre.
But the ways of destiny are strange indeed. Though it seems as though the Zoids must battle among themselves for all eternity, fate provides them with an escape in the shape of their deadliest foes, the Red Zoids. I remember how I, the Namer, last of the Zoidarians, stood witness over the birth of the Red Zoids. I was returning to Zoidstar. The Zoids under my command were in need of repairs and fuel. We never completed our journey. Our ship made a forced landing on Zoidstar's Blue Moon. I nearly perished in the crash. The Blue Moon was a world vastly different to Zoidstar. Cold, airless, uninhabited. To survive, the Zoids changed. Where the first Zoids were cold creatures of metal, the Zoids of the Blue Moon became adapted to their new environment. Their bodies now generated heat. Their blue shells became red, and these Zoids did not battle among themselves, but cast around in search of others to turn into creatures like themselves. Thus they became Red Zoids, terrible metal monsters whose only driving force was the defeat of the Blue Zoids and the destruction of all life in the galaxy.
Red Zoid corruption reaches Zoidstar skies. New Zoid life forms burst with red mutant cries. Crimson steel and silver wings with blood red eyes. Terrazoids become Terrareds and rise. In red horns air force the Terrared soar. Red mutant Zoids now they fly out to war. Turned against their own they now bring steel rain. Terrared seed with lust for blue Zoid pain. Terrareds, the type Zoids of crimson steel reds. As red mutants now face seal reds. Fear no pain or death in war. Terrareds, silver wings, seek blue Zoid guide. Terrareds, sunstop burns as blue battles red. Terrareds, as red mutants now fate steel. Terrareds, fear no pain or death in war. Terrareds, silver wings, seek blue Zoid gore. Let it Zoidstar burns as blue battles red. Guardians contest mutants and leave Zoids dead. Terrareds fly overhead to clash hard with Terrazoids and Cosmozoids on guard. Machine gun fire and rockets rain down true. Terrareds are fearless in red horn crew. Cybernetic duck monster machines fly. Red Zoids seek to rule planet Zoidstar skies. Terrareds, the type Zoids of crimson steel reds. As red mutants now face seal reds. Fear no pain or death in war. Terrareds, silver wings seek blue Zoid guide. But now comes the Lord of the Zoidstar air. Croc, Prince of Darkness, for conquest he'll dare. Galactic dominion is ambition. Terrareds flock to his wings, Red Zoid's vision. Terrareds, the type Zoids of crimson steel reds. As red mutants now face seal reds. Fear no pain or death in war. Terrareds, silver wings, seek blue Zoid guide. Terrareds, sunstop burns as blue battles red. Terrareds, as red mutants now fate seal. Terrareds, fear no pain or death in war. Terrareds, silver wings, seek blue Zoid gore.
It is the never-ending battle between red and blue Zoids. It has been waged for centuries. It rages still, with no end in sight. I, the Namer, last of the Zoidarians, guardian of the names of power, keeper of the legend of heroic combat, have spoken.